To explain more about this is the Executive Director of Open Doors Canada, Gary Stagg. Well, welcome, Gary, to 700 Club Canada.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, tell us where you were when your passion for persecuted Christians was ignited in your heart, and essentially it established the trajectory for your life and ministry.
Well, for me, I have been a pastor for many, many years. But for the first part of my ministry life, I had no idea about the persecuted church. And so in around 1996, 1997, I came across, actually was introduced to it by a friend of mine who handed me a prayer calendar from Open Doors Canada. And as I started reading this, I thought, I was shocked that there was actually people, Christians, in the world who were going through this kind of persecution. I had no idea that it existed, unfortunately. I mean, I grew up on the east coast of Canada. I think I lived a pretty sheltered life, probably. But when I saw this information, and then I just looked into it a little bit more, saw this information, picked up the magazine from Open Doors Canada, and I just began to pray every day for these people, these real individuals that I was praying for every day, who were suffering injustices that I couldn't even imagine suffering as a Christian in Canada. And so from there, I took a trip to a restricted country with Open Doors, because that's one of the things that we do. We have what we call a presence ministry. And a part of that presence ministry is involving people in the Western world, like countries like Canada, where we will go and visit our persecuted brothers and sisters, and just to let them know that we are with them. So I went on one of those trips, and just from there, it just, you know, I still was a pastor for many, many years after that. But I always felt that it was a real mandate on me as a pastor to keep this situation in front of my people. So I subscribed to Open Doors Canada. I got the bulk subscription of prayer calendars, and I made sure that they were available to our people every month. And really encouraged people to pray. And then at our regular prayer times, we always made sure that we prayed for the persecuted church. And so my heart just went out to these people, and the burden for the persecuted church really just grew in me over the years. And so back in 2017, I guess it was, that I was approached by the board at Open Doors Canada to asking me if I would consider leading the ministry for Canada. And I was completely humbled by it, shocked by it, but really felt that, you know, God had taken me on this journey, and this was just a natural fulfillment of His will in my life.
Well,
and, I still consider myself a pastor. I pastor the staff here, but also, you know, a pastor to persecuted Christians around the world.
Wow, it's beautiful. I love how God does that in our lives. Well, He gives us a wake-up call. And that's actually why we're talking to you. We need a wake-up call, because there's many people watching that maybe don't understand. So tell us, what are the greatest challenges to Christians living under oppression or persecution? And how does Open Doors Ministry address those challenges?
Well, you know, I think it really depends on the country that we're talking about. And Open Doors works in more than 60 countries around the world.
Wow.
There are today approximately, what we figure, there's about 340 million Christians who suffer high levels of persecution today. That's 1 in 8 Christians globally. And so it really depends on the country where they are. So if you talk about North Korea, for instance, it's completely illegal for somebody to be a Christian in North Korea. If you're caught with a Bible, or if you're found out to be a Christian, you could die, or the very least, you and your whole family, and this means your extended family as well, will be sent to a brutal labor camp. And so we figure that between 50 and 70 million Christians in North Korea today are suffering in these brutal labor camps. Then if you go to North Africa, the persecution is different. It's not, in some of these countries, it's not that it's illegal to be a Christian. It's certainly illegal to proselytize, to share your faith. But many times the persecution comes from family members, because if they find out that you're a Christian, they will make your life miserable, right. And it can get fairly dramatic and fairly brutal as well.
Yeah, well, you know, that's helpful to just understand the breadth of really the insight that this ministry and that across the world is covering. But June 27th is an important day, and Christians across Canada will join in prayer for those in prison or held captive for their faith. How can we participate in this day of prayer?
Well, the first thing is to go on, well, I was going to say opendoorsca.org, but we actually have set up a website just for this particular campaign, which is called One With Them.
Okay.
And One With Them is really for the month of June, where we're focusing on those who are held captive for their faith. That's people who are in prison. That could be Boko Haram girls who have been abducted from their schools in Nigeria. It could be pastors who have been abducted or are being held without any trial. And so there's the whole gamut when it comes to, we call them Christian captives. And so this month of June, we're asking people to take the pledge to pray for these brothers and sisters who are being held captive for their faith. And you can go and take that pledge at onewiththem.ca. That's onewiththem.ca. You can take the pledge. If you take the pledge, we'll send you a nice little bracelet, which looks like barbed wire.
Nice.
And has a little plaque on it that says One With Them. It's just a daily reminder for you to, as you look at that on your wrist, as you put it on in the morning, to pray for these brothers and sisters who are being held captive for their faith. It all culminates on the 27th, as you said, with a day for Christian captives. So we're encouraging people to pray that particular day, and we're calling on churches around Canada as well. So get your church involved. We're really looking for a movement of prayer for these dear brothers and sisters who are held captive for their faith.
Well, we're with you, and thank you so much for what you're doing. And I encourage our viewers to go there. If you can't remember, go to 700club.ca. We'll have all the information there. Thank you so much, Gary. I really appreciate your time today.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me. God bless.